Hello, everyone. My name is Charles Rayburn. I am the Senior Manager of Customer Success here at ServiceNow. I'm bringing to you a wonderful office hour around project and multi-currency. And then we're going to have some conversations around demand and resource multi-currency. So for the first 30 minutes, the format's pretty straightforward, 60 minutes of time, but first 30 minutes is all about conversations from the senior subject matter expert that we invited. We invited two to part of this call, Alex and Prerna. They're going to be covering these topics, and it may go over 30 minutes, so it's okay. If there's any questions you guys have as a part of that time frame, feel free to put them in the chat window, and I'll try to respond, ask Alex and Brina just to kind of take a pause and ask that question for you guys. And if not, we always reserve time at the end of their presentation for you guys to ask questions directly of the resources that we brought to this office hour. For those of you who are watching the video, definitely if you have any questions on any of the content, feel free to post their questions in the community section, and then we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. So without further ado, Alex, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Let me start sharing, and I'll introduce the concept that I'm going to be covering today. As Charles mentioned, I'm going to talk about project multi-currency. Basically, what we've noticed over the years, prior to this actually being implemented the product, is that since a lot of our customers are big multinational corporations, they get the situations where the PMO may be located in one country and the project is being managed from another country, and the local resources that are either used for that project or just simply spend money that are part of that project spend, those resources may be located elsewhere. And what we found historically, there was one currency that was associated with the instance. Is still the case. There's one currency associated with the instance. So, for example, if a company is located in Japan, Sony was one of the companies that was one of our partners when we were putting this together. So a company is located in Japan, but they're a corporation where projects may be run in Australia. And in Australia, it may be rather difficult for a project manager to plan their expenses in yen and plan to spend on particular individual cost items in yen as well. So what we've done is we've enhanced our PPM application, specifically project management, and later Prerna is going to talk about how that's reflected in demand. We've enhanced that to allow project managers to run projects locally in the currency of their choice. So what we've done is introduced, it's a separate plugin, so it's not installed by default, because we do have customers that may not want to run things in multiple currencies. For example, if you look at the government organizations, usually a government of any country will be running projects in only their local currency. So it's an optional feature, it's an optional plugin that can be installed. Once it is installed, projects get one more view, which is the project currency view. So we still have the default view. If I switch to that and I look at this project and I go to my financials tab, you can see the familiar way of looking at all the financials for a project. Now, if I do install multi-currency and I do choose to be using the project currency view, my financials tab becomes a little different. Some of the information becomes grayed out due to currency conversions. And also, we get a new field here that basically identifies which currency the project will be running. Now, this, for instance, that I'm looking at is actually set to have US dollars as the functional currency. So US dollars is going to be the currency that's going to be my default currency for running any projects that I create. Now, what I can do is I can select another one, and this this list of currencies can be defined per instance. So there's a concept of active currencies. So any instance would have over 100 currencies potentially defined. Customers would choose which currencies are actually applicable to their organization. So here I can go and I can say that, well, I want this particular project to be run in euros. I will select this and I will save this project. And you can see that all of these fields were, we actually adjusted the name to let the customer know or the user know that the information displayed in this field is in project currency, because you may still have other personas other than the project manager. For example, if you have a global portfolio and the portfolio manager may still want to be looking at all of the finances in US dollars. So we still have preserved the fields that keep this information in functional currency intact. But for the purpose of this project, for the purpose of this view, you can see that everything is displayed now in euros in the project currency. Now, a user would be able to change project currency of the project up until the point that the financials are being entered. So at this point, the currency that I've chosen is going to become grayed out. So if I'm going to go and create a cost plan for this project, you can see there are no expenses right now, but I'm going to plan a cost associated with this initiative. So I'm going to say, office rent maybe.
Hi, Alex, really quick,
Yes.
there was a comment made. They said they're not seeing the pop-ups. Are there any pop-ups they're supposed to be showing?
No, there haven't been any pop-ups.
Okay.
There haven't been any pop-ups, not until now. So
okay.
It's all on the screen. So I will say that we have some office rent, so we're going to have to rent space, and this space would have to be rented in, for example, in Germany. So we will say that, or maybe it's a one-time, office rent deposit. I don't want to get into complicated scenarios of recurring expenses. So office rent deposit is going to have to be done in euro. And for example, the unit cost is 10,000 euros. For example, the cost type would be, I would call it other CapEx, just for purpose of this demonstration. And the time is just going to be applicable for December of 2021. So right now I've put this information in euros, and you can see that, my project currency is euro. So everything is basically aligned, and everything around this project, including the cost plan breakdown, including the actual project information. When I look at the financials, you can see everything's in Europe, is in euros as well. Now imagine a slightly different scenario, that is still the same project is being run out of Germany. However, there needs to be a purchase made. There needs to be a piece of hardware that will be purchased for $20,000, and that hardware is going to be shipped from the US. So in this case, I'm going to plan this expense, and I'm going to say hardware purchase. And here, even though the project is being run out of Germany, I'm going to say that the currency that is being used to purchase it is actually a US dollar. So I'm going to say there's $20,000 worth of hardware that was purchased in US dollars. And as soon as I save it, oh, I forgot to put my full hardware CapEx. So as soon as I save this, you can see that the original enter currency that I used to enter this is preserved as $20,000, but it immediately converted what it is based on the exchange rates that we actually keep in the system to euros. And it's actually, and it actually ended up being 17,850 euros. So now if I go back to my project and I look at my expenses, you can see that everything here is in euros. and all my cost plans, they are displayed in euros. But however, I also preserve the way for someone to track what the original entered amount was. So right now we actually accommodate in 3 different personas here. We're accommodating with the functional currency. We're accommodating somebody who oversees the entire portfolio spend or the entire PMO organizational spend. Everything for them will end up being US dollars. We also accommodate the project manager that runs this project locally in Germany in this example. And we also accommodate a third person, a person that may just be going in to enter expense against the project. And that person may need to enter the currency of whatever country that they actually plan to spend that money in. So with that, Charles, would you like me to stop for questions or just keep going? And
So far, no questions in the chat window. I would say keep going.
Okay, sounds good. So I will continue with the example of this particular project. What I'm going to do is I will actually enter actual information. So let's say for this hardware purchase, the purchase has actually been made. I will go and I'll create an expense line. And I will say that, we plan to spend maybe $20,000 on that piece of hardware. It ended up being $20,500, so a little bit more. And I will put today's date. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it as US dollars as well. And I will switch the state of this expense lines to process to make sure that everything gets correctly moved to the project information. That means that this expense has already been recognized. So I'm going to save this, and you can see $2,500. This has been already accounted for. If I go back to my project, you can see that I already have actuals, and actuals as well have been converted to the project currency. So as a project manager, it doesn't really matter to me where the money was spent and what the original amount was. I am able to manage this project in a currency that I'm comfortable doing my work with. So in addition to just straightforward creating cost plans, we also have the same information available with the benefits. So if I was to create a benefit plan, then basically a similar situation would happen. I would have benefits that are recognized in different currencies. So in this case, I will say that, well, my benefits, even though I'm running this project out of Germany, the benefit of this project, let's say $40,000, that's going to be recognized next December, or let's say FY22 December. So this benefit is actually strategic. So the money that I'm going to be realizing from it are actually going to be in US dollars. So once I submit this benefit, once again, as a project manager, I can still monitor this benefit information in the currency of my choice. However, on the corporate side, they'll be able to see this as $40,000.
Two quick questions there, Alex.
Sure.
One, where and how is the exchange rate stored? And then also two, are those rates converted at different rates? See the question inside the chat window. We might won't be spent until July. This is from
so basically the rates, we have a table, and it's actually, so there's 2 different places where currency exchange rates are tracked in ServiceNow. One is a platform-based place It's somewhat of a legacy place to track currency exchange rates. That place is actually wired to European Central Bank, so it gets a feed every day, and it's more or less, real-time rates, and those are used whenever you need to convert something. Because our customers' use cases with ITBM have been more sophisticated than that. We actually created our own place to track exchange rates. We call them budget reference rates. So this is the place where you can not only provide exchange rates between any pair of currencies, but also you can see here there's a start and end date. So those dates are taken into account. So we know that organizations sometimes get handed different exchange rates to use internally from their corporate finance for, FY21 is going to be this date, fiscal year, this rate, fiscal year 22, it may be a different rate. So this table is where that's kept, and this is the this is the rate that ITBM takes into account for conversion. So and please let me know if I have not fully answered the question. I'll add to that answer happily. So going back to my project, I want to show a couple more features. Now, in addition to this form interface, a project can be viewed through what we call Project Workbench, Project Workspace. So in here we have a couple of tabs that have been enhanced to handle multi-currency information. So one of those places is the financial summary tab. You can see here that out of the box we have fields like cost and functional currency, total cost, and so on. What we do is we allow users to add cost in project currency and basically or variance in project currency. So any of the attributes that can be viewed here can also be viewed in project currency as well. So so that the project manager can basically see information in currency they're used to, or they can even, for example, remove any field that shows actual currency. So you can basically remove fields that are functional cost that represent the corporate currency, and only manage this project in local currency. Same thing with the yes.
If a budget rate changes, does it recalculate the planned costs?
It does not recalculate planned cost if it changes, unless that cost is basically modified. So there needs to be a modification trigger for that, and we did that for performance reasons, because we do have some customers that have hundreds of thousands, even millions cost plans, millions of cost plans, and with cost plan breakdowns, that sometimes gets into tens of millions of records, and rates change relatively often, and recalculate something like that, triggering an automatic recalculation was something that the platform team would not allow us to have in the product, because it may slow down actual customer instances. So for that reason, this is something that we didn't include as a feature. So what I want to show here quickly is I can also change the tiles up top here to show me everything in functional currency, in project currency, or switch back to functional currency. So we're making this very flexible. Or I can say, you know what, I only care about total planned cost and actual cost, and I want to see those side by side in both currencies. And I can do that and basically see side by side in dollars and in euros. If, for example, I am at the, sitting in the corporate office looking at everything in US dollars, but at the same time, I'm having a conversation with the project manager, and we need to basically speak the same amount. So that this is where this helps. On the status report side, we also, so I'm going to create a new status report. So let me just submit it. So you can see, everything here is right now in corporate currency, because a lot of the times, even if you manage your project in euros, you have to basically report that status to somebody who may not be co-located. Now, going back to the project, if I switch to my preferences tab, there is a field here that's called status report currency. So I may want to say, okay, I want the status report to also run in corporate currency. So once I save this and I go to my status report, something didn't quick. With this link instead, but you can see here that the cost is now displayed in the project currency. So very flexible, accounts for a lot of different needs. And one more thing I wanted to show is if I go back to details, I wanted to show the baselines. So we also are able to display baselines in different currencies. So let's say I have a new baseline that I create. I'll include financials in that baseline, and my baselines right here. Oh. Oops. If I look at my financial baseline, on the baseline and view financial baseline, you will see here that right now everything is once again in corporate currency, but here I can actually switch this and everything shows in project currency that has been chosen. So we made it very flexible for different use cases, for different corporate situations. So I'm gonna stop. I think I showed what I was planning to. So thank you for your time, and please let me know if there are any questions.
Great. Thank you there, Alex. Any questions for Alex before we continue with the next presentation?
Yeah, this is Patrick. I would have a quick one. If your expense happened to be in a third, because we saw US and Euro, if an expense happened to be in a third type of currency, everything would still roll up all the same?
Yeah, yes, it would still work. So let me go back to my project details, or let me go to project details. I'll create that type of a cost plan. So for this project, let's say there was an expense that was incurred in Switzerland, right? So I'm going to create a new cost plan, and I'll say travel expense, and it's in Swiss francs, and I'll say that we paid $2,000 for a plane ticket. I'll say that was other OPEX, and once I save this, you can see it gets converted to euros. And if I go back to my project, you would see that here the entered currency. So that's an example of 3 different currency. The entered currency was Swiss francs, because somebody bought that ticket in Zurich. then the project currency, because being run out of Frankfurt, for example, it's euros. But I also am able to, at any point, switch my view to default view and view all this information in US dollars, because I'm running this project out of New York.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I had a question. How do the rates get uploaded? And is this something that I guess we can do this every single month, like and do like a mass uploader?
You can. So the budget reference rate table, works just like any other table where you can have a template in Excel, and then it goes through import set and transfer map functionality to actually get the rates uploaded. So relatively easy. The only thing we do enforce, avoiding date overlap to make sure that there's always a single currency of that can be used.
And
Yeah,
being
sorry. No, go ahead, Patrick.
I was just gonna say, being under financial planning, it has no licensing effect, and it's still just the ITBM standard license.
It is ITBM. ITBM standard would allow you to access this.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, so the next presenter we have is Prerna to talk about demand and resource multi-currency. So thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Hey, hi everyone, this is Prerna here. Thanks, Alex, for setting up the stage, because whatever I'm going to talk about demand currency as well as resource multi-currency, the principles essentially are the same. They will still follow the similar principles to project multi-currency. So let me start sharing my screen here. I hope you're able to see this. Now, if you recall, what Alex said was that, when we started discussing about multi-currency, the main reason why we thought of this concept was because the organizations, they are actually multinationals. They are spread across different geographies. So a lot of times, the local regional PMOs would like to manage their demands as in a different currency to what the corporate currency could be. Keeping that in mind, for demand currency specifically, we have provided a setup. This is something that can be done by an administration, system admin. Why do we need it? Because a lot of times there are three scenarios that we observed. One of them was the demands, unlike projects, irrespective where they're originating from, they would continue to follow the corporate currency, or as we call as functional currency in the system. Therefore, an organization can take a call whether they want to follow all their demands in this particular currency. If they do that, this is going to be applicable across demands. However, this does not necessarily mean that projects would follow the same currency. Let me take an example. So in this, let's say my corporate currency is USD. If I choose this option, or for all my demands, my demand currency will be by default set as USD. However, the project currency can change based on which region a project is being executed from. The second option is drive project currency. In this case, the demand currency can be set up by the demand manager, which is different to what the corporate or functional currency could be. So in this case, my demand currency could be GBP, whereas my functional currency was USD. However, in this scenario, all the projects would follow the similar currency. Why is it important? Because every time there's a demand to project conversion, it will automatically inherit the demand currency. And consequently, when the project gets created, all the financials will be moved in the same currency as demand currency. Now, the third option is the FlexSide option. Now, we've talked about some restriction in the first two. However, we do recognize that people would want possibly a different demand currency to a project multi-currency. So in this case, choosing a FlexSide option would allow users to follow a different project and demand multi-currency. Now, let me save this option. Now, again, repeating, this is an admin functionality. This is a one-time action, and it will be applicable for all the demands and projects. Now, once I've done that, let me now go to a demand. Okay, so I'm here at demand, and as you can see, both these options are editable for me. So I can choose to have these as different currencies. Let's say this is GBP. This will be used, like I mentioned, when the demand gets converted to a project. I'm using the older dates because this is the data that I have in this instance, so please bear with me for that. Now, one thing that I want to highlight that what the view that you see here is a demand currency view. The default view will give you the old financials, which are editable in nature, but in this demand currency view will allow you to have all these different fields in demand currency. So let's just save this. One key difference here is in terms of the budget. Now, let's say I want to add a demand budget. This is the only place, frankly, where we have allowed user to choose the currency of their choice. They can actually input the budget in either demand or functional currency. Now, the reason is a lot of times the budget that is given is essentially, in corporate currency. Like I want to spend $50,000 USD, for example, in this project or in this demand. So therefore, to capture that, and at the time, we may not know where exactly the demand may be originating from. It could be multiple regions or where it get executed from. Therefore, in that situation, a demand manager may choose to just go ahead with the functional currency. So this is the only place when you are setting up the budget, a demand manager can choose to go with either demand or functional currency. So I'm just going with 10,000 each. In this case, my demand currency is, as you can see, euro. I'm just going to save it. Now, as a demand manager updates the information, the relevant information gets updated as well accordingly. So let's quickly create a cost plan. This is very similar to what we showed you for the project plan. So you can have a different entered currency to the demand currency, which is defaulted here. Let's say it's just labor, capex. If you see here, the cost line breakdowns would also be showing information in the demand currency and of course the exchange rate. So for example, if I would have created a cost plan here in a different currency, which is different to the demand currency, it would also show me the exchange rate and the exchange rate date that has been considered. This is the same as the budget reference table that was shown earlier. Similar to cost plan, I can actually create a benefit plan. Now, we have recently introduced a bifurcation here. There's a monetary benefit plan as well as non-monetary benefit plan. So in this case, the financials that get captured as part of benefit plans will be captured here. Let's quickly create one. See if it shows up. All right. So again, let's say I want to capture my entered currency in USDs because that's my functional currency or the corporate currency. I can enter that value and I can submit. So based on the information that I'm adding in terms of cost plans, benefit plans, budgets, all this information will appropriately get updated. So this is the demand currency view. Now, similar to what we showed you for project multi-currency, we have this financial dashboard for demand. Here we can actually add different widgets in the demand currency as well. And user can select whether they want to see information only in the demand currency also or in the functional currency. Along with that, as you can see, we can display what the functional currency is versus what is demand currency. And you will be able to see cost related information here and in benefit plans, the benefit related information in both the functional as well as demand currency. Again, user can opt to include actuals, for example, and they may say that they do not want to see, for example, the entered currency because that's possibly not relevant for them. So this is what we have in demand multi-currency, a similar feature to baselines because demands also have baseline capability. Then if you create a baseline here, user will also be able to see the variances and everything in the demand multi-currency as well. So if I click the financial baseline, I will be able to see all these information in the demand currency. So this is what I had for demand currency. Any questions so far?
Maybe a quick, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not seeing it in the chat window. If you guys want to unmute, go ahead and ask the questions directly.
I was just wondering if budget allocation and maybe investment funding, the funding, do they follow that? Does it have any incidence on what happens there?
So for investment funding, yes, we try to introduce the demand currency there. Well, I'll have to frankly check that for you because we did some work there, but I'm not sure how far we reached. So I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, quick question, William here. Could we have a different currency for demand currency than the actual currency? So could we have two separate currencies floating around for let's say Canadian to USD or pounds to USD? You know what I mean?
So possibly I've not followed the question properly, but if you're talking about the conversions, then yes. In the budget reference rate table, we actually have different types of currencies and their conversions. You will possibly have USD to GBP. You will also have Canadian to GBP. It's how the customer would set that up. You will have that information available.
But is it possible to have a currency, like a same currency? So for example, USD to CAD for actuals, and then for budget purposes, we have a slightly different currency for the same Canadian to USD. Can we have that?
Yeah. Yeah. If you see for actual currency, so that is the only place where we do not refer the budget reference rate. So in the expense lines, whenever we capture the actuals, we utilize the currency of that particular date. So based on that, whatever the currency conversion was for that date, that will be considered. So it can be different in that situation.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, then I can move to the resource multi-currency. Okay, a few technical aspects just want to call out. We have certain scheduled jobs that we had created for demand multi-currency. So, all the historical data that we have, because we recently introduced this demand currency and project currency fields. If you see, they would really be blank because we did not have this concept earlier. So we have provided this scheduled jobs that can be run. It's just once. One is for inactive demands, one is for active demands. For all the existing demands, active or inactive, it will consider the functional currency as the demand currency. Then, of course, demand managers can go in and change that information. All right, so moving to the resource multi-currency. So it's very simple. So for one of the features, actually, you don't even need the multi-currency plugin. So let's go to the rate models. So this is something that resource managers can use. And one of the reasons why we got this requirement was because a lot of times, because let's say the project is getting executed, let's say in India, the resources are going to be onboarded in India, and their rates would then be required to be in INRs, whereas the functional currency could be USD, or demand currency could actually be very different, as well as the project currency. So because we have so many different currency concepts and reporting requirements around it floating around, therefore, to make lives easier for resource managers, we introduced another field called resource currency. So let's go for one of our rate models. This is something that is available today. So let's view a rate line. Okay, so if you see here, let's create a new. So now we have actually introduced this field rate. Of course, this was already there, but this one new field is rate in functional currency. Now, what will happen is, based on where the resources are getting onboarded, a resource manager can select any of these rates, and that will automatically start reflecting in the functional currency as well. So let's take a date here. Again, one, I'm just going to select some random information here. Okay, let's say because my project is getting executed in GBP, I am selecting a rate of 100 for this particular resource, and I'm going to submit it. So in this case, now if you see this rate is 100 GBP, and if I open it up again, my USD rate is also populated. Now this is for resource managers. How will it impact demand and project managers? Now, if I go back to a demand or a project for that matter, based on, let's do a shortcut here. Let's go to a resource plan. Now, you all know that resource plans are typically associated with demands and projects. Now, based on which demand or a project it is associated with, in this case, this particular resource plan is associated with this demand. If you see, this is a demand currency view. Now, based on the information added, we have also populated these demand currency fields. So in this case, a demand manager will be able to see the resource cost that they are incurring in the demand currency. And the same is true for the project managers also. For resource plans associated with project, if we convert or if we change the view to the project currency view, then the project manager will be able to view these fields in the project currency. This will help them plan better. So overall, all the details will be available in the relevant currency. So this is what I had for the resource multi-currency. Any questions?
So far, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat window. If anybody wanted to ask a question, go ahead and unmute yourself. If not, you can continue.
All right, since there are no more questions, Charles, this is all I had for demand and resource multi-currency today. Again, just want to call out that the project demand and resource multi-currency go hand in hand. There's, of course, a lot of overlap in terms of how we have implemented this. The budget reference rates or the rates that get considered, they are similar. In fact, they're same across projects and demands. We've tried to keep it consistent across these different functionalities.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just to answer Patrick's question, Prerna here, investment funding always goes by the functional currency.
Always functional. Okay, thank you. And the roadmap, strategic road mapping, would they see it only in functional currency also? I would believe so.
You meant roadmap planning?
Yes, roadmap planning.
On the roadmap planning, I mean, you can add the metrics. So if you are adding the planned cost, say, right?
Yes.
So I think if the project is, I have not tested it, I can test it and get back to you, but I feel whatever is the project currency, it will show in that, but we need to test that. I forgot, yeah.
Thank you, Namita.
Sure. Okay, back to you, Charles. I think there are no more questions. Prerna, this was very insightful, and same for you, Alex. It was very wonderful session. Thank you, both of you.
Yeah, I have to agree there. I've just launched the live office hour feedback poll. Please fill out that information there before you head out. If there aren't any other questions, thank you guys so much and for joining and attending this office hour. Again, for those who are listening to the video, go ahead and just submit any questions you have after you've viewed the video within the community chat window, and we'll try to respond as soon as possible. So are there any other questions from the customers on the call?
Not from me. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you, Duncan. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. As soon as you fill out the office hour feedback poll, go ahead and log off. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.